Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. Thank you, Coach Glow, for being with me today. So happy you are here.
I'm happy to be here for sure.
Wonderful.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, right? You've got the green background, the green shirt. So I love it. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy birthday to my friend Jamie. Just let me get that in there real quick. Some of you know, but I created this series in order to host a platform for women to share their stories, share their wisdom, how they navigate their lives, share the work they do in the world, and more. And so it's a way for me to spotlight each of our members of our Facebook group, Ageless Goddess Vibe Tribe. If you are not in it yet and you're a woman or identify as a woman, come on over and join us. And we really wanted to get to know one another. So again, after this, I'm going to provide Coach Glow with the video link so that she can share it with her community, her platforms, her friends, wherever she wants to. As most of you know, I feel deeply called to shift women's perceptions of themselves as we grow older, in addition to shifting our cultural beliefs around aging. I feel our world and our country now more than ever needs the full expression of women's wisdom, women's voices, creativity, and radiant power. So this week's Wednesday Wisdom, as I said before, I want to introduce to you she's a fellow queen of women's empowerment, my friend, Miss Coach Glow Favreau. And I'll give you a little intro about her, and then she'll introduce herself. So Coach Glow is a native New Yorker. She's happily married to John for 37 years, John Favreau, and is related to the other John Favreau, right?
Mm-hmm. It's John's nephew.
John's nephew.
It's our nephew.
Yes. So I wanted to clarify that. She has 3 sons and 8 grandkiddies. She is a certified life coach for women for over 20 years. She is on the regional advisory board for Master Network's New York, Connecticut region. That's how we met. And she is a women's annual retreat leader. She does a lot of volunteer work, and that includes work with the church ministry in the program of Breaking Free and the children's ministry. She has been a reader to blind seniors in her local community. She is the ambassador of hope for the unshattered.org organization, unshattered.org. And she's been volunteering with women since 1987 to help them overcome their battles with addiction. She has corporate experience in the motion picture industry, advertising, marketing, and staffing. And she started her career as a coach in staffing, became a certified life coach in 2009 through the Certified Coaches Federation. And she started her own private practice in 2011. And she's been in network marketing for many, many years. Okay, she's doing a lot. So welcome again, Coach Glow. Thank you for being here. Greatly, my heart appreciates it. And I know that you have a lot to share. So I wanted to just give you a few minutes to tell our audience about yourself, about your background, your professional, your whatever you choose to share is perfect. So you have the stage.
Oh, thank you, Liz. Thank you. And I really appreciate, again, once more, I can't thank you enough for inviting me. I was really honored and felt blessed that I was asked to be here. So after listening to you introduce me, I'm exhausted. I'm saying, like, oh my gosh, I did all these things and I'm still doing them, which is why I don't age. I do not age. I am an ageless warrior for sure, which is why I was so excited about joining the Ageless Words Vibe Tribe, because I really felt that was a calling for me, like to be in a community with other women who were up in years. And, and as like we say, there's one age on the calendar or the birth certificate and totally different. And I'm the poster child for that.
Yeah,
because
we are.
I never want to get old. So, so a little bit about me. Yes, I am a native New Yorker, and I was brought up in the Bronx,
Mhm.
and that is just about 35 minutes north of New York City. And my mom had a local business right in our neighborhood. I was brought up by a single parent. My dad left us when we were very young. And so, in doing that, just being in part, and, whenever I reflect on I go back right away to my adolescence because there were good times, Liz, and bad times, as most people. But I got very involved in a local, it was called the Catholic Youth Organization. So it was a young people's club organization. So we're here in the city in the Bronx, and they would provide us with trips to Yonkers. Now, Yonkers to me was way upstate. When you're living in the Bronx, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going up to God's country. But they would take us on field trips there. We were known as like the inner city kids. So that's where I learned to roller skate. They took us to a skating rink there. I learned to ice skate. I was horseback riding. I really got introduced to a lot of things that were not readily available, obviously, in the Bronx.
That's great.
And so they had a talent show in this youth organization, and I became very, very active in coordinating it. And then I was a participant in it. So and this is definitely like the root of my adolescence. And I was part of a doo-wop singing group. So
Wow.
it was me and four guys. And my brand name in business is Coach Glow, but everybody knows my real name is Gloria. But if you want to be my friend, please call me Coach Glow.
Yeah,
But I was in that.
you glow. You are glow. Yeah.
I, I was in a singing group, and it was called Gloria and the Artistics, and this was in 1967. So we through this youth group, I got involved in a local talent show, and we came out first place there. Then we went and we competed in New York City at Town Hall near Lincoln Center,
So cool.
and we came out second in the city, and I just loved it, Liz. I just loved that. My sister was like my biggest fan. She was like a crony, she'd invite all our fans from the neighborhood, and they would come and support us. So
That's awesome.
that's a very, very big part of my childhood / adolescence. And I went to school in the Bronx. That's where I met my first husband, at Bronx Community College. I was never really an academic kid. I couldn't wait to get out of my mother's house just so I could start working, because she was like, I mean, I love my mother dearly. May she rest in peace. I owe her a lot. But growing up, and now I realize, being a single parent and in the Bronx, she had to be tough. And l- growing up with my mom was like growing up with a drill instructor in the United States Marine Corps. And
Real.
I reflect on that a lot, Liz, because my sister and I would talk about, I only have my one sister and then a brother that I only met a few years ago. We share the same dad, but my sister and I share the same parents. We grew up together. And we often reflect on how tough my mom was. But I don't know if you saw my post recently on for Women's History Month. My mother definitely was a trailblazer for all of us uh, female entrepreneurs, because in the 1950s, when she came over from Puerto Rico in 1946 or 1947, you didn't hear about women-owned businesses. And my mom, she went right in there. She jumped into the trenches and she opened up a restaurant. And her and my dad, and then shortly after that, my dad left. But my mom was really a trailblazer,
I,
and
I have to say, I did. Yes, I did see the post. First of all, she was beautiful, and she was
Thank
like
you.
a little compact little person, but you could see that she was like powerful. So I love that you shared that. She just, yeah, she had a like this powerful stance, and but in this little package.
Yeah, and we realize, obviously, we always say, hindsight. You look back, we realized as we became adults that she had to be that tough. That it was a rough neighborhood, and if you weren't tough, I mean, we could have easily gotten sucked into a lot of unhealthy behavior,
Hmm.
illegal behavior, and thank God she was the drill sergeant.
Yeah.
That was good, but sometimes it wasn't, because guys who wanted to date us were fearful of, they just the whole thought of meeting my mother, she instilled fear in them. So, not that we had any problems going out with guys, going steady with them, but they never really wanted to get too close and meet my mom and all that, because again, she was very, very strict. But anyway, I believe she did a great job with both of us. And so I ended up working in New York City. My very first job
Hmm.
was peeling potatoes in my mother's restaurant. So we would have, and I'll tell you, Liz, my mother worked her tail off. She
Mm.
never wanted to ask anybody for money. Once my dad left, she was determined.
Wow.
So she was a
Not easy,
real,
isn't it? That's a tough business. Anyway, let
and
alone.
she's,
Mm.
yeah, it started out as a restaurant. So that's where we started. We'd get off the school bus, because she sent us to a school in Manhattan that would
Mm.
pick us up and, excuse me, take us out to Manhattan. Soon as you got off that bus, you had to go in the kitchen, put your school bag down, and start peeling potatoes.
Mm.
So that was the first job. And then, I definitely wanted to get out from under that, and then she was just like hanging over you, make sure you were doing it right. And anybody that knows me to this day, I do not like the kitchen. Even back then, I knew I was not a kitchen gal. So,
Mhm.
so then I started to work in New York City, and I had some great, really real career highlights there, because I was, I worked there, Liz, when it was like the 70s. 68 was my first 70s. I mean, I was a disco queen for sure. I mean, when you see the word disco queen, my face is right there.
Love it.
um, uh, I worked as an executive assistant for Paramount Pictures. So I was working there when Saturday Night Fever came out. So I met a lot of celebrities.
Really, very cool.
Yes, it was. And there was a lot of partying
Yeah.
going on.
Do you have a
And
Do you have a celebrity story or some?
I sure do. I sure do. So I had a huge, huge crush on John Travolta. I'm telling you, if you saw him back then, he was hot. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, but the day that he came into the office, I was out sick that day.
Mhm.
So I didn't get to meet him personally. However, he did he did autograph a picture for me, because all my coworkers were saying to him, "Oh my God, Glow's going to be so upset. She's crazy about you." And he saw it, because there were pictures of him all over my
Oh,
desk. And so he autographed the picture for me, and he wrote, "To Gloria, I hear your hot stuff. Love, John Travolta." And I met him. I met Henry Winkler. I met Laverne and Shirley.
wow.
That's
And
from that time.
that was in the height of their shows, right? So,
Oh, absolutely.
wow,
But I
amazing.
have to tell you, a quick story.
Hmm.
So there was a movie that was coming out at the time. It was called Islands in the Stream, and George C. Scott was the lead actor. And part of my job, I was working for the president of the company, but I asked for a transfer because I was bored. All I was doing there was serving him coffee, sharpening his pencils. I mean, the epitome of a secretary, you
Hmm.
know, no brain power, no use of my brain. It was
Mhm.
just do this, do that. So I asked for a transfer, and human resources was mortified that I
Mhm.
was working for the president of the company and I'm
Yeah.
asking for a transfer. Anyway, they transferred me to the publicity department. And this is where I had an opportunity to meet all these celebrities. And so in this movie, Islands in the Stream, one of my responsibilities was the staff that at me, he says, "Thanks, honey."
Mhm.
And I turned around and first I slapped him, and then it was a knee jerk, but my knee came up and went right between his legs, and I turned around and I said to him, "A secretary is not an office toy."
Good for you. Good for
And
you.
all the women were clapping for me and everything. So
Yeah.
that was it was hot and heavy at that time. I mean, forget about and then there was woman's lib and all that,
Oh,
but
good for you. That's that just shows you were strong always, always strong.
oh yeah, absolutely. But I had my share of all of that. I mean, if
Wow.
if it was now, I mean, I hear what's going on now, and it's a joke. I mean, it's not. That's the wrong word. Um, Compared to the way it was, I mean, I know that today any gesture, like how things could be misconstrued and all that, but this was bad. He touched me, he grabbed me, and I let him have it. I had to touch him back, but in a very painful way for him. But yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that's I mean I that was when I was married to my first husband. And honestly, Liz, I say that I'm happily married to John. In your introduction, 37 years it's going to be this year. Because in my first marriage, I was not married to my husband. I was married to my career. I
Mm,
was so obsessed with wanting to be somebody. I wanted to climb up the ladder, the corporate ladder. I volunteered for overtime anytime,
mm,
weekends, evenings. Plus, there was a lot of partying going along with the overtime. So that's really where I was drawn to. I openly admit I don't think I was the best wife. I don't really even think I was a good mom. Um, but I had a very responsible uh, husband at the time who cared for our son.
mhm.
So, it was very easy to take advantage of that situation. So we eventually parted. And then on that commute into New York City, I met the man of my life.
Mm,
And the rest is history. The rest is history.
mm, yeah. Now, but so. How long did you stay in that world, as far as that? Because that is, I mean, that world is, first of all, it is 24/7. Those jobs, if you're working in, for Paramount, I mean, you probably wouldn't have been able to climb the ladder if you didn't, unfortunately, overwork, and not have that balance. Um, but I'm curious when you left that world.
I want to say it had to be in the late my son was 5 years, 1984. So I was there for 5 years.
Okay. And how long
Yeah.
after meeting John?
Oh, when I met John, I was already out of the
Mm,
city. I was already out of the city.
okay.
But no, that's not true. I'm sorry. We met commuting into the city. So I wasn't working at Paramount any longer. I was working at an advertising agency.
Okay.
And we met as commuters on the train.
Mm,
Same, like that movie with
that-
oh, I forget who it is, but where two people meet on the train.
yeah. I don't remember. I'm not sure what movie it is, but I love that concept. And because people can get really to know each other very well, commuters. You're right.
Oh my gosh, we told each other we were happily married. I wasn't going to just sit there and meet this guy and like just vomit all over him and say how unhappy I was at the time. I didn't even know if I was unhappy. I just really didn't like being married. Honestly, I just wanted to be a career woman.
Right.
And so we met and we told each other we were happily married. And then we saw each other on the morning train. And then it was the evening train. Then it was like, hey, you want to grab a glass of wine after work? So we would go to the oyster bar at Grand Central. That's where we would meet.
Oh, I love it.
That was our little
Little
hideaway.
It is, and it is like a hideaway. So you feel like you're in a hideaway when you're in the oyster bar.
Yes, yes. And so, that's where it all started. And then finally one day we were honest with each other, and John said, I'm miserable. And we're talking about marriage. And he
Yeah.
said, I'm miserable. And I said, so am I. Buddy, my new best friend. Yes, I'm very unhappily married.
That's
But
great.
anyway, I actually, I feel bad sometimes saying like that, like, oh, I'm so unhappily married. My ex-husband and John get along great. And my ex-husband is a super guy. He was a wonderful father. He's an amazing human being. And I openly say this, and John knows, I love my ex-husband. He's my son's dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in love
Yes.
with John.
Yeah. Well,
There's a big difference
there's
there.
a big difference, and it's beautiful when you can have that kind of relationship. And so you said that John loves it. Or you have a good relation. Then obviously you have a good relationship with him now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely. I mean, we've had parties here. We've invited him and his wife. We've gone out to dinner with them. We've gone out dancing
That's
with
so nice.
them. And now they moved to, they're in North Carolina or South Carolina, but super nice people. I mean, my ex-husband and I always said that we would never have my son feel like that we always wanted him to know he had both parents. Neither one of us has ever spoken ill of each other. I think that's so important today, Liz, because I'm sure you know as well, because we see women in our practice. Sometimes they really shoot down the dad for whatever the reasons are, whether it's right or wrong in their eyes. When you have the kids as the audience, it's very, very damaging. And I say that because I was one of those kids. When my father left, my mother had nothing nice to say about him. He left us for another woman.
Yeah.
And they started a life of their own and had a child of their own, who's the brother I met just a few years ago.
Oh, huh. Okay.
But the kids get damaged, and psychologically, it's just it's hard to repair. And I say this, I'm being very vulnerable now, Liz. I feel very comfortable talking to you, and I don't. At my age, I don't care who's listening. What
Well, you're going to it because it's going to help someone who's
Yeah, and I'm not concerned about being judged. This is who I am. And my dad leaving at such an early time in my life, and my mom badgering him for the rest of my life, did some serious emotional damage to me and affected my relationships with men. Because I felt like and of course, we took it as if he left because of us, whatever distorted.
Right. You have to, you're a child, you start to think that it's somewhat your fault. And yeah, I mean, that's just part of it. And
It was just very damaging to me emotionally. And I grew up feeling and thinking that again, I felt like my dad didn't love me. So how could any other man love me? That was the first man in my life. So I had issues. Because I didn't believe it. I could not believe it. I mean, I was told that I was loved. I was shown that I was loved. I could not accept it.
Yeah.
I was so emotionally damaged. I could not accept it.
And it even seems to me, like, as you're saying, it makes sense that maybe the why that you dove into work the way that you did rather than into your first marriage, so I'm curious if you would share, like, what was that turned it around, that you now were able with your second husband, was there like something that like that that where you changed, where you were like, okay, I'm worthy of actual love, and I can trust, to
Yes.
be vulnerable and to be in this.
The radical impact in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was referring to.
Um, so yeah, so again, working in the city, partying in the city, and that continued, and with John, married to John. And then there came a point, John has been and continues to be, he's my biggest fan. He is definitely my soulmate. He's my best friend.
Mm,
Um, I could tell him anything. I'm not afraid to say anything to him.
mm,
Nothing.
beautiful.
And what happened though, with all that partying that I was doing within my career, that partying, of course, was in my personal life as well, and it started to just get a little bit out of hand. And and I'm very open about it. I'm very transparent about my alcoholism and my battle with it, and what it was destroying our marriage, and I really, that's what I attribute it to. And John just wasn't going to stand for it,
Mm,
and sort of, not really gave me an ultimatum, but I knew it was time that I had to do something about it. So uh, I thought, like, this is now my second marriage. I didn't want I, I didn't want really to look in front of my son like I was going through a second divorce. Like, what's up with my mom? Like, what's her issue with men?
mm,
So
mm,
I really had to, as we say, put the plug in the jug,
mhm.
and I had to. I got sober.
Yeah.
Now
Good
I
for you.
don't know why I even, I'm so, I'm not reluctant to say it, because honestly, Liz, getting sober was the most radical impact
Yeah.
turn in my life. I would not be here if I was not sober. I would not be a life coach if I was not sober. And really getting sober, and I don't know how familiar you are with 12-step programs, but I was in a 12-step
Mhm.
program, or still am, I should say. But I you get a role, which is called a sponsor. And what the sponsor does is you help the beginner to get sober and start living life on life's terms without drinking or drugging. And when I started to see the transition in some of these women that I was working with,
Mm,
and I had another corporate job in 2008. And when I lost that job, I was already sober, but when I saw the transition that these women were making, I was like, I could help women with this.
So can I
And
clarify, Glow, that so after you got sober, you became a sponsor for a number of women. Is that what?
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Okay.
So, and you can't be a sponsor unless you have the 12 steps. After you complete your 12 steps, then you're eligible to help others.
Okay.
And so I was sober, for quite some time then. And I lost my job in 2008 due to the economy. And I was a career coach at the
Mhm.
time,
Mm.
working in the staffing industry. So when I lost that job, it was when I remember exactly how it happened, it was awful the way it happened, but it was a blessing at the same time,
Mhm.
because I was a career coach and I was in corporate for a long time.
Mhm.
And um, they called me in this one morning. I thought I was getting a promotion and a bonus, because
Really?
I had just brought in this multi-million-dollar account to the company, and
Wow.
I was up against a lot of competition, but I was able to land this account. And I walked in there, Liz, I was ready. When I went in that morning,
Yeah.
my supervisor says, oh, at 10 o'clock, we're going to meet in your office. And I have the area manager who's going to join us? Okay, great. And I'm not, as God is my witness, I walked in there and I was all pumped up. I was spending the bonus already. And they said, we've got good news, bad news. Good news is you've done a great job, whatever, whatever. Bad news is that due to the economy, we need to remove a line of management, and it's your line. So today, you and 99 other managers, 100 of us will let go. And you have 45 minutes to shut down your computer and take your personal belongings.
Wow. Wow.
That's exactly what I said. I turned around and I said to them, well, I'm not going to say thank you, but okay. So I got in the car and I called John right away and I said, I will never work for anybody else again. That was the turning point.
That's where the blessing is in the being. Right. Right.
Exactly. So then I come home and I'm like, oh, now what am I going to do? I've been a career coach. And both Michael and John were like, you're a great listener. You always say that the candidates you worked with and, as a career coach, they told you TMI. So why don't you think about going back to school and becoming a life coach? And I started out being a life coach for both men and women. And as you know, I have now really focused on just working with women. I just get them more.
Right.
I understand us better. I'm still trying to figure men out, and I love them. They're great human beings, but I think I'm of more value to another woman. So then that's what I did, and I said to my son, I said, "You mean like hang out a shingle, like with my name on it?" And he said, "Exactly."
That's amazing because I mean, at that time, life coaching was not that well known. I mean,
No.
like it is now. So I think that's really important to note, that this is
Well, it reminded me of my mother, coming into New York, not knowing what she was getting into, jumping right in, opening a business. And I pretty much did the same thing years later. I jumped in and became a life coach. And honestly, Liz, it was what really gave me the impetus to be a life coach was being a sponsor and helping, seeing women go through that transition and that transformation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it was based on my own transformation. Like when I think about where my life is today, again, it's only because I got sober.
Yeah.
Hands down, if I decide to drink, all bets are off. I'm going to lose everything. So even if there are times that I get that thought, because I still think about it. I mean, I'm around alcohol a lot.
Right. You get triggered.
Yeah. And, I have to think, I've learned, think it through. It's just like a client who comes to me and may have some kind of issue with their spouse or a sibling, before you react.
Right.
Step back, respond versus reacting.
Exactly.
So that's what I do. I think it through. I know for a fact that drinking is definitely not an option for me. The thought can be there, but no can do. Same thing with cigarettes.
How many years are you sober?
A week from yesterday, it'll be 18 years.
Amazing. It's amazing, amazing. Yes, I get it with the cigarettes because I smoked for a long time, and it's there's still like when I see one on camera somewhere on a movie, I'm like, ah.
I mean, even as recent as last night, we had a friend over. I call him Mr. Lynch. He's Irish. So we had him over. John made corned beef and cabbage. So we had our St. Patrick's Day dinner last night. And he's a smoker, and I used to smoke with him. And me knowing that he was coming over, I kept saying to myself, am I going to be tempted to have a cigarette with him? And I told him about this at dinner. We talked about it. And all I kept saying to myself was, I'm a non-smoker.
That's it.
I don't drink, I don't smoke. So that's just, that's my
affirming it. And that's, and it is interesting when you have somebody who smokes around, and that you used to smoke, because there's that little, like that code that you have.
Yeah. Well, they ended up talking about food, like how you say, like, okay, I'm not going to do the sugar, but then you see that donut, or somebody brings in things to the office, or somebody comes over to your house and they bring you this big cake, and you're like, really? Like, I'm trying to get off sweets, no sugar, no flour. You bring me a cake with icing and all that. So it's the same thing, it's like these triggers,
Yeah.
but for me, getting sober was not just about putting the drink down. Getting sober to me was helping me fall in love with Gloria.
Mm, I love
And I did not have that.
that.
That's
That like I just want to double click on that for a second because that's beautiful. And I was going to say fall in love with life, which is also falling in love with you is falling in love with life. But just to double click that's I was thinking it's a matter of life or death, but it's really a matter of love or right, or living in that place of fear and um
horrible.
disconnected and not not really
Not,
living.
not only that, too, Liz, when I look back, and I was just at a meeting last night, so that's how recent, we just shared about this last night. Um, you know, I was a great liar, the best. And I would create lies. I would make up lies and run with it. And I would tell you that lie. And if you didn't believe it, all hell broke loose. You weren't believing my lie. I was so convinced it was true. It's sick. It is absolutely sick.
Wow.
So I don't want to go back there. That's who I become if I drink. So if I don't drink, I'm good. You
Then
know,
you're
I'm
right.
I'm coach I'm Coach Glow, easygoing, love.
Yeah, you're authentic. Yeah. I mean, because even if I understand we just were able to like talk our mind into thinking that it's true, even if it's a lie. When we know it's a lie, it's not going to feel good in our body, right? Eventually, or so it's great to have that kind of awareness and know where you don't want to ever go again. It's amazing, and I think that I can't imagine a better training ground for being a coach than being in 12 steps, because I think that like I know a little bit about it, but just the steps are really steps that we all should be embracing, and not in a
Listen,
religious way, really, if you're not religious, but I think it in just a way of having it's mind body spirit alignment, is what I think is what it does. um
well, that's where I learned about myself and why I drank the way I did, and why I did a lot of other things compulsively. My shopping was off the charts. I put down one addiction, I picked up another one. But we have this saying, in my group, that when a child is born, or at least I brought it to them, when a child is born, after they give that child a social security number, they have to have a 12-step program. Because there's so many, it's not just about alcohol or substance abuse.
yeah.
There's Overeaters
Mhm.
Anonymous, there's shopping, for so many other addictions, for anger,
For
for
right. I think they're going to start to have it for technology addiction. There is a thing. I mean, I don't know if Anonymous has it, but there's definitely a tech addiction people or something.
it is an addiction.
Yeah.
And can I tell this, Liz? We all have it.
Yeah, we all have it to some degree.
I don't care what age you are. You can't hide behind, oh, these kids today, they're always on their phones.
Mm,
So are their parents,
yeah.
and the grandparents.
Yeah. That's so true. Very, very true. Believe me, I know people, yeah, grandparents who are definitely addicted for sure. It's a problem for.
Yeah, but once you address it and you're able to overcome, it's great. It's a wonderful feeling. Like, we feel like we need it. The other day, we pulled out of the driveway, and I said to John, I forgot my phone. He said, do you want me to turn around? And I actually thought about it. And then I said, nah, it's okay.
I just did that.
I
I
Oh,
did
yeah, but Liz,
that.
I have to be brutally honest here.
Uh,
I was dying.
real.
I was like, "Oh my g like, I don't have my phone," you know? It's like a wart, it's gotta be, like, on me all the time, and I said, "Nope, I gotta practice what I'm telling my clients, I gotta walk my talk, okay? Put the
Absolutely.
phone down, so you forgot the phone, you don't have to go back and get it.
Yeah.
There's nothing, no emergency." I said, "If it's an emergency, they'll call you."
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I love when I forget my phone. When I get there's sometimes, and I'm in the car, and first of all, I'm away from my house, and people, who are living here just for a break, and I'm like, oh, it's just like this freedom. I'm on the road with the music on. But yeah, but of course, the first thing I do when I get back is check the phone.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Problem. So well, this went very, very fast, which I knew it would because you have an amazing story.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
we're going to do a speed round, but I'm going to ask you just a couple of quick questions first.
Okay.
Okay. So I know that age is not a factor for you, but if it was, is there anything that you still want to learn, try, or experience that like comes to mind?
Yes, yes. I wanna go ziplining. I've never done it, and right now I'm learning the keyboard because
Ooh,
I wanna learn how to play the piano.
nice.
When I was 8 years old, I started taking piano lessons. The instructor told my mother, "You're wasting your money and our time. Her fingers are too stiff. She's never gonna learn how to play," and I never played again,
Aw.
but I always wanted to. So
Mm,
now during COVID is when I said, "You know what? You gotta learn something." So
yes,
that's when yeah, so keyboarding
it's
and
amazing.
zip lining. Yep.
First of all, I'll go with you. I'll go zip lining with you. I have gone and I loved it so much. So I would happily, well, let's do it. We'll do it together. um,
Okay,
yes. And
I'm ready.
I just thought of a question. So have you done any singing since you were, in the Gloria and the four Gloriettes?
Gloria and the Artistics. Um, I sing on Sundays here
No.
at home. Poor
Hmm.
John. I don't sing the way I used to, but it's such a high for me. It
Hmm.
takes me back to 14 years old on stage at that youth group singing, I mean, and we ended up going to a recording studio and we were going to do an album. And the reason we didn't was because the four guys that I sang with, two are dead, one is serving time,
Mhm.
life, and the other one died, all drug related.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, but yeah, singing, I love it, love it, love it, love it.
I have to say, I think that, because I know a lot of like people whose children have, done some type of entertaining, or whether it's acting or singing. And I don't know, I see it as and now I'm thinking of you because I did not know this about you. That it's like a way to really become very, very comfortable in your own skin and confident, when you
Mhm.
perform, you're being seen, so I think that adds to your like your grit factor, which is which is a good thing, really good thing. Um, all right, so we're gonna do. Oh wait, let me just ask you. I have to ask what because it's the Wednesday wisdom for the Ageless Goddess Tribe Vibe Tribe. When you hear, because people when they hear ageless or ageless goddess, it means different things to different people, and people respond, and I know what I mean by it, but I want to hear what each of the women in the group feel about that term or what it means to you.
I think of forever young and free spirit.
Mm,
I'm never going to age.
yeah, I think that's the key to
Yes.
longevity and healthy longevity is to just be ageless. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was just talking with someone yesterday about age, and he says, "I'm not getting older, we're just aging."
I,
So he said, "Not getting old." And I said, "Well, that's good because I'll never be old."
no, absolutely not. One woman who was on the show, actually, she referred to it as somebody I told her about this, like, what level are you? Like, I'm at level 50, so you're up leveling. And I love
Uh-huh.
that. I love that because I believe that is what we are
Yeah.
doing.
I just know nobody will ever say to me, "Act your age." You know how you said how many times you heard that growing up or even as a young adult, and like, "Act your age already." No, I don't wanna act my age.
That's it. That's right. Right. You want to have wonder and joy and all, for life. I love that. All right. So we're going to do a quick speed round. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Is there a TV show that you're currently binging?
I don't binge, but we are watching Beartown on HBO.
Oh, good. I don't know.
Yeah, and just it's about a hockey team.
Okay.
It's just 5 episodes.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, but I'm not a binger because I really don't watch TV a
Yeah,
whole lot.
right. I know me either at this
I'm into Clubhouse now, so I'm, like,
point. I like
on the phone listening in to people's
that.
conversations and really
Yeah.
learning all about Bitcoin and all this other foreign language that I'm not aware of, but I don't wanna be a dinosaur.
I,
So I need to keep up with I don't need to fit in, I don't need to be cool. I
mhm,
already am cool.
yes, you are.
I I just want to know what it is. You know,
Yeah.
I don't wanna sit there and hear somebody in a conversation, especially in a business setting, and hear somebody say Bitcoin, and I say, "Huh?" You know, or some of my friends how do you work this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or they have the flip phone because they can't figure out the iPhone. So, no, that's not me.
I agree. I completely agree. And and you'll probably communicate with your grandchildren too. You want to be able to know how to do that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure. Okay. So, do you have a dream vacation destination?
Costa Rica
Oh, major zip lining.
and ziplining in Costa Rica.
Yeah, that's okay. That's where I did it. So
Oh,
I have
really?
it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep, with the family. That was a trip we did. Yeah, I'll tell you all about it if you decide to go, or when you're planning it. I have a
okay.
whole folder around it. Okay. So, what are you most grateful for? Just
My
a couple.
sobriety.
Yes, it all comes down to
Mm, self-love.
absolutely beautiful. Success is
A journey.
relationships are.
Relationships relationships are a trip.
So,
They are a trip.
so great. That's so great. I've heard complex. They are a trip. That's perfect. Sisterhood is
A gift.
mm, I want my legacy to be
Truth.
beautiful. Um, last last question. So, if you could populate the waters, I always ask everyone this for the children coming up, your grandchildren, their grandchildren. What would you most want them to learn and get right? What would you hope to learn at a young age?
Well, I know that at a young age, it's difficult to really turn to a higher power or a spirit outside of self. But my 10-year-old grandson is already learning about mindfulness. One of his teachers in his class has started teaching that. So I think that's just so important. And to um, not to work so hard at fitting in with everybody else and just really live up to, a quote that I have in my family that my whole family knows that I live by.
Yes, I
But
would love to hear that.
to thine own self be true.
Mm,
It's from Hamlet.
mm,
But to thine own self be true. If I had done that, Liz, back in my 20s, again, hindsight,
mhm.
my story would be very different. However, I am grateful for that story, for this story, and all those hurdles I went through, and all those emotional scars, and all of that I still carry, but have been able to overcome. I really believe that I'm becoming the lady that God intended for me to be.
Mhm.
And I had to go through that so that I could help women today.
That's right. Right. That's right. And that's a benefit of growing older, because then we, it's a benefit. I think there's a lot of benefits, but yeah, that's beautiful. Um, so yeah, I was just gonna say, I was thinking about just when you were saying about the mindfulness. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff also that we teach women and that we teach our clients and that we've learned for ourselves through coaching and are things that all should be taught in school. you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I could never do that before, Liz. I either had a hangover, an awful headache, in bed, under the covers, just wasting the day.
Mm,
And now that I start my day with prayer and meditation, I end my day with prayer and meditation.
yes.
And during the day, if something kind of just stumbles along my way, that's kind of gonna be a little with me,
Mhm.
I say my serenity prayer,
Mm.
and that turns me around.
Anchors you. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm,
absolutely.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I've taught that to especially my oldest grandson. And I
mm.
tell him, I want you to memorize this. I want you to memorize this prayer. I want you to memorize to thine own self be true. I'm always teaching him. And he's away at school in South Carolina. And look, the relationship I have with him, he's had a little issue with the girlfriend. And this morning he called dad, and dad was unavailable. And guess who he called next?
That's very nice.
And John said to me, I think you grew another inch. That would be good for me because then I'd be 5 feet.
I could use a few inches too. Um, that's so nice. I said somebody told me that yesterday. Their grandchild called them when they had a problem, and it's like I'm like, how great is that? That must feel
Mhm.
so good, so good,
Yep.
beautiful. So could you? We're gonna wrap up, but could you tell
Okay.
the audience who if somebody wants to learn more about your work, get in touch with you, where to find you, and anything else that you want to say as we wrap.
Okay. So the easiest way is to go to my website, which is coachglow.com.
Hmm?
That's the simplest way to contact me or um, get to know me a little bit more and my background and take
Awesome,
it from there.
perfect.
Very simple, coachglow.com.
And it's glow without a W. So yeah, GLO.
No, just GLO. Yes.
Glow.com. Okay. Thank you so much, Coach Glow. That was
Oh my
amazing.
God.
So many wonderful things I
I
didn't know
can't
about
believe I can't believe the time.
you.
I
Right?
I I said, "Am I gonna be able to fill up the time?" But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad we did this. Again,
Mm,
thank you so much for the
Thank
opportunity.
no, thank you. Thank you from my heart to your heart. I love you. And
I love you, sweetheart.
thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay,
Everybody,
love you, hon. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.